Yeah, it's past 1:30 in the morning. I don't even know if I should give you the date. I just need to get things off my chest, and I don't specifically want to attack people, especially people that might allow me to help still, although it's not likely. Like I wrote an email recently. I sent it to a couple of people I already met, and I want to be very clear that, they would lose me if I don't mind volunteering, but when there's a couple of weeks in a row where my expenses, uh, you know, go beyond my potential income, they would lose me as a helper, a committed, passionate, long-term, driven helper, and that goes for so many kind of communities that I've interacted with for a long time. So to get things off my chest, that I'm just gonna load this on my YouTube, but I'm not gonna post it right away. But anyways, the date is the 20th, in the wee hours of the morning of September 2023. So so I had put an ad on Facebook, and somebody said, "Oh, contact this lady. She does massage. She's very good, and she could use." And she says this lady has a diagnosis. I'm not sure if she was saying the lady does or her kid. And okay, well, I said, "Well, can you give her my information?" But she continues interacting with me a little bit, and so it's a little bit private information about this person. But so I'm supposed to meet this person that followed up with me at a lake, okay? And at that lake, I guess the information wasn't clear enough, or the lady was there but didn't really look for me, as if I would know exactly what tree she's talking about. Like, there's a lot of trees like that there, and probably didn't make any efforts to look for me. So I just left, but there's some parts I could have made efforts to, uh, but then I try again later, go to her house and meet her there, and while I'm there, interact with her kids successfully, and even prevent a few accidents that could have been really bad for her kids. And her kid has a diagnosis in a particular group that I've wanted to work with for a long time, whether it's that age or adults with that diagnosis. And the lady, like typical, agrees with me, about the education system in BC or Canada, and also parents not doing the work with their kids that they need to do to compensate for what's wrong with the education system, and she agrees with that. And yet, I explained to her that my working with her kid will be beneficial for her kid and her family, but also she would be role modeling something that needs to be done, which is to have a parent be proactive and say, I want this worker who works at home with my kid to also work in the class with my kid. And I believe that is the right. If it isn't, then you're looking at some serious, looking at your face in the mirror kind of proto society there that doesn't allow a parent to choose that, and a school district or an education system that doesn't allow that. And she says she's not religious, but her research, or what she convinced herself, is that this religious school is the best option, lesser of multiple evils. And I said, well, I don't mind working there, but I have to tell them also, if they ask, that I'm not religious. And but then there's a series of emails between us, and in these emails, she's trying to domesticate me or indoctrinate me to act a certain way at the school. And I say, well, if these situations come up, here's how I would respond, and things like that. And you could tell she's really trying to domesticate me. But the first thing that she says when I met her in person is she charges 100 or more per hour for massage. Oh, and I say I want to be clear that, and again, this is not the first masseuse mom, who's got a lot of kids, who takes pride in charging a lot per hour, because that's what you guys allow. And quality, by the way, of massage isn't there at that price, right? It's not. It really isn't almost at any price now, the quality of massages, especially in Canada. I've posted about this years ago. And So I'm lucky. I guess I didn't get a chance to possibly be disappointed. But I was clear what kind of massage I'm looking for. Like deep tissue, and I'm also clear that 1 hour for me is equal 1 hour for you. And no offense, but it cost me a lot more my specialties and diplomas for what I offer. And I said, well, if I offered my rate, which I believe it'd be 417 US dollars per hour, so I don't want to go discussing this. And then I always give an example that, when I traded 2 per 1, it's because one time, for example, my driving school offering lessons to a person who was offering me lessons for something else. I had insurance, fuel, blah, blah. So that's why 2 per 1. But otherwise, most situations, 1 per 1 is fair. And when people that claim not to be capitalists still push a little bit, you know, and they know their kids have a big need. They know they're failing, and they know the education system is failing, and they want to do this. They just can't go past the monetary paradigm, the magical nonsense, and then they can't go past the supernatural paradigm, because I do a little bit of research about the video she wanted me to watch and who that person is, an academic who is really a fundamental Christian, and who plays a big part in creating the ideologies and strategies that such religious schools use in these redneck communities. So she said, after I emailed, which is very fair what I said, and really trying to educate her in what I see in these videos and how I want to help her kids, and how she would role model uh, the courage or the miracle of other parents might be doing the same. Now, I can't work miracles. I say this. It's a lot of hard work, and it's going to be outside of the norm, and I'm comfortable with that. I'm not going to freak out, being among religious people who can't think for themselves, or can't think efficiently, or are not free thinkers, and who think they're superior to me as a free thinker. So I've been there in different countries of the world among, Christians, for example. So, for me, it's don't panic, don't try to domesticate me. But the thing is she couldn't stop doing it. She couldn't stop thinking that she realizes she needs an expert. And then she's trying to domesticate the expert, me, to be inefficient and therefore part of the problem by being, a good sheep in the system that's broken. And she doesn't see this. She doesn't see that from the beginning I could tell that even though she agrees with me that other parents are like this and it's wrong, that she's acting exactly like this. She's not doing the work herself. She's trying to get miracles to happen by turning me into part of the problem when she knows she needs solutions. Like, it's really nonsense, and this is the norm, and it's hard not to be upset about it. It's hard about not having these extra expenses, being the one who already spent more time than she did on this. And then later I send an email, okay, let's say I can save up enough money for a massage where we don't do a trade. How much would it be? And would you be able to play this type of relaxing music during massage? Never got an answer. So she's punishing me, even though she's a capitalist, for not being the sheep she was trying to train me to be. So, guess what's going to happen? Oh my God, and what if she's pregnant again? Or she adopts somebody else or fosters somebody else? Oh my God, there's a lot of couples like this. There's a lot of single moms like this. There's a lot of failed cultures like this. And everybody would take her side if I talked about this, and I am. And because everybody identifies with that side, not this side. And that's okay. I wanted to go talk to a pastor who's been in Uganda, and so I go to this church, and I'm clear again, I'm not religious, and I do talk to him a few times, and he takes my email, and he said he'll follow up, and like most Christians, the hypocrisy is there, or they forget, or they think somehow because they can't see me anymore that I don't exist, and somehow there shouldn't be any guilt for them not following up. I don't know what it is, but it's dishonesty, it's hypocrisy, and it's an inability to keep your word. That's so common. And but there's a guy there, so stay and some of us stay, and it's pretty much only his family except for one guy. And I wait a long time, and I was saying, are you sure? Can I help? Can I set up tables? Like, can I help bear food? Because I kind of have other things to do. And it turns it because he's saying, oh no, I like your stories. I want to hear more. He's not that interested in paying attention or understanding where these stories are coming from and how to interpret them. He's still trying to defend, and he becomes defensive in front of the kids. And he's like, I'm not sure these conversations should be in front of your kids. And he still wants to have them because he still wants to justify his beliefs and his lifestyle and his, the way he, raises his family or interacts with his wife. And his wife, you could tell, is a bit more open minded, and I'm giving her praise. And you could tell again, there's relationship issues between him and his wife, and he's trying to get her to be more open minded. No, she's trying to get him to be more open minded. And again, I tell this lady, I said, how about you create this miracle where I'd be very surprised, but you get 6 to 8 people in your church to participate in a free life skills lessons that I would give. And it'd be like, usually it'd be like 4 to 6 hours of doing this, and you would see, and she knows it's true. She knows it's the kind of skill sets that would help her couple and her family, and even like strengthen the community of her church when it comes to win-win scenarios, social skills, collaborations. So it's the same thing, like Mount Sentinel Farm between Castlegar and Nelson is they asked me to leave after 2 weeks, and they pretty much said it's because our miracle didn't come true. We believed that when you'd be around us, that somehow your brain would get brain damage and you'd start thinking and acting like us, and believe in these supernatural things. And when it didn't happen, because they weren't smart enough to use me for my life skills coach, a learning specialist, a couples counselor, driving specialist skills. They only wanted me to work on the farm, and they lost me because their miracle didn't come true. But again, their miracle would have been not to turn me into failed cognitive clones of themselves. It would have been to to just honor what I told them, like I told that lady at the church in I don't know the name of the church. It's the first one if you go from Smithers to Telqua, the first one on the right, I think. They're all the same. I know they think they're different, but all these Christian, and I know where the conversations are going, and I know I'm going to spend hours, and it's going to be the same evolutionary dead end, where the person just proves themselves incongruent and wrong, and proves their cognitive dissonance, and somehow, I'll still give them a hug before I go, and I still know they won't follow up because there's dishonest hypocrisy in everybody on earth that shares DNA with me, and most certainly Canadian cultures and Christian cultures. So Mount Sentinel Farm is they lost a hard worker on the farm, like a hard worker. Like I was getting up really early when it's still dark, starting the fires in the big house there, and helping with dishes so much, and working with the animals or chopping wood they needed for the winter. And some people were worried about going away because like they usually would have been the one chopping the wood, but they knew I'd be there. And they still asked me to leave, and it's because they feel bad about themselves when I don't become one of them. When I said it's not going to happen unless there's a trauma to my brain, but I still want to help, and I say I want these 4 things, which everybody wants, which is unfair if your community claims they're capable of this, but they don't give it to me. I want to be seen for who I am. I want to be understood. That means no assumptions, no talking when it's time to listen and pay attention to who I am. Then I want to be accepted as who I am. So seen, understood, accepted, and then appreciated for who I am. I can't even get one of these. I can't even get the first one. And your HSD is so strong. That includes my relatives. That includes places I've been for decades or places I could be for weeks or months. I can't even get this. So the human right violation of any culture that doesn't give all 4 to everybody is crazy. I can't even get one in cultures of the world that claim to not violate people's human rights. Okay. So I can't exist as who I am, and who I am as a helper who's being penalized for just the idea of wanting to be a helper. It's that pathetic. The species I share DNA with. That's what it's like to suffer from species alienation. It's saying, oh, yep, things are going to go this way again, but somehow I'm still trying. And maybe there'll be a miracle someday. But you know what the miracle is? The miracle is for you to make the decision. So it doesn't require gods or supernatural. It's for you to make the decision. We're going to have Martin come in and give a life skills lesson. And as the leader of this place, I'm going to take it like everybody else and role model these things with a good attitude and give my 100%. I can't get these miracles from you, and then you blame me for it. And it's not really a miracle. It's just you making the right decisions in the roles you're in where you get paid. Or if you don't get paid, you're recognized as the authority of your culture to be the leader. And yet you don't do anything. And you don't do anything that's productive other than trying to domesticate me to fit the status quo that you know is broken. It's like, oh my God, your species is so doomed. So it's mostly, again, social pandemics. It's not viral pandemics. It's not funding pandemics. It's not political pandemics. It's the flaws up here creating broken proto societies and cultures that adds trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. And guess what? You're not the only one with trauma. Try to have my trauma to be the only Homo sapien on the planet that keeps being treated this way when I'm trying to teach better.